Hi there. Welcome to the Sober Circle channel. Enjoy this speaker tape.
My name is Clancy, and I'm an alcoholic. I see the red light's on already. Well, that's really cute, Bill. I am very pleased and honored to be asked to speak at my home group and to continue to participate in Alcoholics Anonymous, because I certainly believe that that is the only chance I have to lead a life with any degree of growing comfort and growing ability to cope, as Bill said tonight. I had a very difficult week, too. I had a very difficult day the other day, and I was lying down in my bed. I had 10 minutes to take a nap, and some goof came in and said, "Somebody drove off my car." And I had to get up and take my nap time cruising Venice looking for some 1975 car. And I haven't had a sickening moment like that since that time I was speaking Norwegian in that bathtub 3 years ago. She said, "Over my dead body," and she was right. But I know we have a number of new people here tonight. I know there are a few people who have come to their first meeting tonight. There are a number of people who are at the Pacific Group for the first time. There are a number of people here who have heard about the Pacific Group and heard mixed reviews of the Pacific Group and are waiting for the men in the leathers and whips to come out and give it. No, don't get hot. Sorry, Jen, you'll have to do it to yourself again tonight. And it's kind of a funny thing. It's like many things that Alcoholics Anonymous has, and that is my conception of AA very nearly killed me. And my conception of AA was so strong that it intensified the longer I came to AA. And I came to AA again and again and again over a number of years, and all it did was reinforce my basic premise. And the basic premise that I always carried in my life after my first few meetings was, but I am not really an alcoholic like they are. I have a drinking problem sometimes, but unlike them, my life is not simple. My life is complex. My life has complexities that these people cannot solve with these pleasant steps and all their little things they're going to do. If there's anything that if you ever feel alienated and alone and different and you want to increase that feeling, just contemplate the 12 steps of AA. Because they are not designed for complex people. They are designed for simpletons, like the people on either side of you. They are not designed for people like you and me. When you're feeling frantic and alone and desperate and alienated and misunderstood and unloved, it really doesn't do much to have people tell you that, well, if you'll just say you're a terrible old drunk and you're all screwed up and ask God, God will make you all well again, and then you're going to let God be the pilot in your life, and then we're going to have a little voyeur session, and you write it all down and read it to us. And we're too old to do anything about it, but we like to hear it. And then you're going to ask God to get rid of all your faults so you can be like the people you've always hated. Just have little thin blue lips and just, well. Then you're going to make amends to people who've been screwing you for 25 years. Here's $10 for calling the police on me that time. Sorry. And in case there's anything, if in the 4th step hasn't got all the scabs, if there are some that just about healed, keep going in the 10th step. They might find one. Oh. Bleed, you sumbitch, bleed. And the 11th step, which is a great step for career depressives such as I, meditation. Meditation is a step, I've said it many times, but I know no better way to say it. If I wanted to take a depressive and make him just not see him again, I'd say, go, next time you get a depression, sit in your closet in the dark and meditate. Just sit there alone. Have your pistol right along with you so you just... And then there's going to be some great reward at the end of all this. You're going to be allowed to get a call from some goof at 3 in the morning and drive across town and let him vomit on your shoes while you explain your gratitude. AA is a nice program for simpletons, for people who are basically straight shooters but drink too much. But it hasn't anything to do with people who have been cursed with the ability to think or to perceive the inanities inherent in this fellowship. And getting together and all the people getting up and humiliating themselves and the listener, oh, I was just terrible, and I did terrible things, and I'm wonderful, you know. It just makes you crazy when you're alienated and different and alone. And I knew that AA had no answer for me. In fact, my first meeting, I don't think, I might not ever have gone to AA for some time, but I went to AA at my first meeting, and I didn't plan to go, but they'd come to take my cellmate. And he was a drunk. He was a town drunk. I was in there just because sometimes when I was a young man, and sometimes when I was older too, when I drank, things fell into place. And I was, who was it, Billy Batson or somebody, when he said, Shazam, he turned into Captain Marvel. And when I drank, I turned into Captain Justice. And I went through the world righting wrongs. And when I saw fascist cops arresting people, I would step in and say, you can't do that, you fascist son of a bitch. And on at least 2 different occasions that I recall, I got him to release the man and take me. And I was in jail for one of those Captain Justice moves. And the guys came from AA to visit Oscar Sonny, who was my cellmate, old town drunk, 45, 50, old. And I was just there. And the guys, I lived in a small town at that time. And in a small town, some of you are from a small town, everything that happens is in the newspaper. Everything that happens is in the newspaper. You just wait at night to see what kind of press you're getting. Just, oh, God, you know, the drunken disorderlies and the lewd and lascivious and the just on and goddamn on. And you don't know whether to be envious or sick or what the hell it is. And when I started reading the lewd and lascivious, well, good enough for her. She turned me down, the rotten bitch. But the guy said, I'm from AA, and you want to go to an A&A meeting? I said, sure. He said, I've been reading about you in the paper. I hadn't been in jail a couple times, and nothing serious, but I made the paper. And so I went to my first AA meeting. Things were a lot looser in those days. They took us both out of jail and across the courthouse square and upstairs of Luby's Meat Market on West Grand Avenue and into a room full of all the losers in that town, guys who I would never go near. And they sat around without front teeth, and some of them were haggard and old and 40 and 45. I was a bright young guy with my life in front of me, and they talked about how not drinking made it better. And I just kind of, like I'd go and visit Molokai and look at the lepers. Think, have you got a medication so your nose will stick on all week? Is that it? You know? And a couple of weeks later, I was drunk, and I got into some trouble, and I told the guy I belonged to AA, and he said, well, if you go to AA, you better do something about it, and he let me go, the cop. And from then on, that's AA's primary function in my life, was to use it to get out of situations.
I went to AA in a lot of cities and states. I never went to AA until the heat was on so bad I couldn't stand it. And when I went, I was always dismayed by the ridiculousness of it. And sometimes I had just terrible times. I remember one time I was spending a weekend, not a whole weekend, Saturday night and Sunday, in the Cook County Jail. And I knew I'd get out Monday morning since we went to court. It was just drunken brawl on some bar on South Wabash Avenue. And I was working at Fairbanks Morse in the advertising department, and they had an AA meeting in the jail. And I went up there, and they had coffee and cigarettes better than sitting around. So I went to the AA meeting, and I sat in the back row with another guy, and we kind of, this nice old grizzled fellow was talking, no, boys, it's, you don't have to live like this, you know, you're going to go to insane or death, and all the AA crap that just old fools tell the bright young men. And we were kind of chatting. I remember he said a line that just, I laughed later, because I used to say it on the county jail when I had the meetings there. And he said, you know, he kind of looked at us, his face got red, and he kind of looked at us, and he said, I guess you boys are a lot smarter than I am. He said, but in about a half an hour, I'm going home. Where the hell are you going? You know, and I thought that was a cold shot. But he was a nice man, and I kind of respected him. I went up after the meeting, and I asked him, I thought just once, I went up and I said, you know, I've been having a little difficulty. I don't think I'm really an alcoholic. And I kind of caught him in the hall. And I said, I'm not really an alcoholic, but I've had some troubles and some problems, and what would you suggest I do? I mean, I don't think AA's got an answer for me. And I'm not, you know, these guys are going to be in jail maybe for 6 months. I'm going to be out of here Monday morning back at Fairbanks Morse, and but what would you suggest I do? And I just prayed, just once I opened myself up. I prayed you'd give me some reasonable answer. And he gave me that same old AA crap. Well, son, you get out of here, you go to a lot of AA meetings, and you try to work the steps we have, and some days you just hang on, and it gets better. And I thought, I didn't say anything. I just turned around and walked away. I thought, you dumb son of a bitch. You know, I tried to make a shot. Give me something besides this sophistry that works on these simpletons. Haven't you got anything for somebody who thinks? And I had to find other therapeutics. I went into psychoanalysis. I got into metaphysics. I read a lot of books. I read Nietzsche. I love Nietzsche because he's such a cynical old puke. And I just didn't always understand him, but I loved him. Nothing wrong with reading Nietzsche, I've thought later, is, you know, you get near the end, you get to the end and you discover that you're right in agreement with him right up till the last, and you then discover he had died in the insane asylum. And you go back and try to estimate where the line of demarcation is. I remember it was a relief to me when I discovered that he had died of tertiary syphilis. He wasn't sick. And I went to AA in San Francisco and Chicago and El Paso and Dallas, a lot of cities running. And I performed the classic life of a person like me. I started over with renewed vows and determinations, and it's going to be different this time. And as I've again said many times, I am a 50-yard dash man. And there's no place they're running the 50-yard dash. You know, I look at the Olympics every 4 years and think they may have a 50-yard dash. I will wear the Norwegian flag and raise my right hand clenched and say, you shall not oppress us anymore. But for 50 yards, I can be anything. I'm enthusiastic, I'm lively, I can be a good husband, a good father, a good worker, a fun guy. But after about 50 yards, I feel a tape that nobody else feels, I guess. And I look around and I suddenly realize they're using me. And when I begin to realize they're using me, it isn't long after that I begin to retaliate. And it isn't long after that I am gone. running or fired or punishing. I get into a state, and I never realized it until I was sober a while. I fall into a classic state, and it's a state that most people like me fall into. And I suppose, gee, here's Joe Sandusky, didn't know it was that late. You fall into a situation that people like me fall into, and that is, without even being aware of it, there is something lacking inside. I don't know that there's something lacking, but I feel like it. And I have to compensate for it, because I spent most of my life convinced that I myself would not be enough. I either have to play a role or I have to have an edge. But just me is not enough. And that's what I was always looking for, the edge, the extra, the role. I played roles and played roles and played roles and tried to get that extra and read books and tried to supplement my knowledge. And I had no idea then, or for a long time thereafter, that there is no way that I can externally fill the void that keeps that feeling. And there's only one way I know to fill it. I can fill it briefly through psychoanalysis. I can fill it briefly through metaphysics. I can fill it briefly through anything I become obsessed with. I can fill it briefly by all sorts of obsessive behavior. But obsessions don't last. Sooner or later they die off and there you are again. The only continuing help I had in my life was a few drinks. And that's why I drank. I didn't drink because I'm a drinker. I drank because I feel and I think. And I go to AA and be desperate, and you get no answers. Go up to some guy and say, I'm just about crazy. What am I going to do? Well, you keep coming back. I wanted to holler, no, I don't want to get crazy. And you get the damnedest inanities, and it's just so bad. And I just didn't know what was happening. I just know that somewhere, someplace, there must be a place where I fit in. And then I remember I've spent a lot of time in my life. I think one of the reasons I got hooked on the Civil War is because 25 years ago I thought, I've just been born a century too late. I should have been, there's something wrong in the permeations of my DNA scale. I should have been born in 1827. I should have been born in some other time, some other place, some other thing, because I'm too much of a romantic, not a romantic in a love sense, but a romantic in wanting to live in a world that was full of technicolor and excitement and do things. It's not a damn old world of just drudgery and dullness and people treating you funny. Not even treating you funny, just not even going out of their way to treat you funny, but they, like I heard a guy say one time, all my life, people somehow act like I'm different, but they won't tell me what it is. And man, most of us know that feeling. And so that's why it's imperative that I have to find some relief. And so I drink alcohol. And sometimes I drink too much, and sometimes it so unleashes me. And it seemed like I used to blame it on my church. I was raised in a very strict church, the Norwegian Lutheran Church. And I thought that had created psychological warps that bound me, and so when I burst loose, I burst too much. But all my life, I only have two speeds, doing the best I know how, and screw it. And nothing in between, just nothing in between. And you just go back and forth and back and forth. One spring, nominated to be Junior Chamber of Commerce Young Man of the Year. End of that same year, playing piano in a whorehouse 2,000 miles away. Just one spring on the faculty of the University of Texas, directing a grand opera. That winter in the Nut House, directing the Christmas pageant. Get your hands off the Virgin Mary, Lamar. One spring, working in Dallas with one of the largest advertising agencies in the United States, the South at that time, working on these ads, some of you remember, for L.C. Nelmer, the Borden cows. Later that same year, having my front teeth kicked out on the floor of the drunk tank in Phoenix, and just on and on. And I very nearly died, and I could not find out what was wrong. Now, they say in AA that we ask this of newcomers. It seems like we ask this of newcomers. All we ask of you, if you are new, is that you be honest and open-minded and willing. If you are, you're in the wrong place. I've been working at it a lot of years, and I'm getting there. I would say that if you are intellectually dishonest and close-minded and unwilling, you're home. Because that's the kind of people that we turn into after a while. Desperate, alienated, insecure people, and most of us covering it with insolence or defiance. Because the worst thing you can do when you feel inadequate is ever let anybody know you feel inadequate. I've been in a lot of barroom fights that I wasn't big enough to be in, because someone, I thought, impugned my manliness. And they probably weren't even doing it. But when you've got rabbit ears and you don't feel like a man, you got to prove you're a man. And since I wasn't big enough to always fight fair, I hit him with bottles. Anything I could get my hands on, I just cheat, you know. One of the great ploys I developed over the years, and I don't know if ever you did, but just be in a bar and have some, while you're talking back and forth. Oh, yeah? Yeah, some bitch. Yeah, you want to do something about it? Yeah, you know how that goes. And just wait till he relaxes. Then hit him as hard as you can right here. And while he's stung, you're like, and by that time, with any kind of luck, some guys are pulling you off. And I had a few TKOs that way. But always some son of a bitch in that bar a week later didn't know you're tough and just kill me. Just, you're the tough little son of a bitch. I never knew why I felt different. And I found out in AA why I feel different. And the reason I feel different is because I'm different. I suffer from an illness that one of the great deadly symptoms of it is your own brain telling you again and again that you haven't got it. The great trap for my life is that I became a booze fighter. And booze fighters nearly always wind up drunk. One in a great many don't. It seems like almost every group, I don't know of any in this group, but a lot of groups that I visit, always have one old guy who successfully fought booze, especially in discussion meetings. Well, I don't know about crap about the emotions. I came here for drinking. God damn it, I don't drink. That's what I want to talk about. I hear drinking talk. Got this emotion shit. And it's pretty hard to debate, you know, if a guy's got 20 years sober. Took me 2 years to think of an answer to, you know, because I have new guys with me, and he'd say, now you told me I got to write a fourth step. That guy, 20 years sober, says I don't have to. Who should I listen to? I'll get back to you in a couple of years. Took me 2 years to find the answer. The answer is just this. Do you think you're strong enough to stay feeling like that for 20 years? I'm not. I am basically weak and sensitive. There's only two ways that people like me can stay sober. I either got to develop some immense strength, or I got to change the world. Try that some morning. And if you are new tonight, you are undoubtedly certain that neither can be done. And the funny thing is, you can develop a little more strength, But what good is it going to do when you go to AA meetings and make an effort, and the ones that are the trouble aren't going to AA meetings? They're out there. They are bosses. They are mates, ex-mates, mates-to-be, neighbors, people who look at you funny on passing buses, you know. Must have had 1,000 occasions in my life where I have felt reasonably good and somebody has said or looked something funny at me. And when you don't feel secure, it pushes you off. And one of the most difficult things I've ever had to learn is that there is a name for that condition. The name for the condition is not an alcohol problem. It's called alcoholism. I fell into the hands of people who did not want to debate with me, who instead gave me actions that, in taking them to get them off my case, I survived. Much of that same philosophy is carried forth in this meeting and many meetings like it. Your sponsor probably sometimes won't tell you why. Just do it! But it's just on the same concept. That alcoholism, this strange thing that we have, is a very deadly disease. Nearly everybody who has it dies from it. A great number of people in this room tonight will die from it. Maybe me, maybe you, don't know. But I've been saying that for years, and I've been saying it to people, and they laughed. Some of them are dead from it. Thank God I've survived. But I may be the next one. I hope not. Because the curse of alcoholism is you keep thinking the problem is out there. And the problem is not out there. The problem is in here. The disease is within us, and it has two facets, physical and mental. The mental facet has nothing whatsoever to do with drinking. That only affects you when you are sober. That's what the first step says, even though we don't often hear it. It doesn't say we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and therefore our lives became unmanageable. It says we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, dash, and in the English language a dash means end of thought, beginning of new thought, that our lives had become unmanageable. What you're admitting in the first step, there's nothing really to admit. It's always amazing when I hear people say, I couldn't accept the first step. The first step, there's nothing to accept. All you accept is, I'm having some trouble when I'm drinking, and I'm having trouble when I'm not drinking. That's about all. You know. It doesn't even ask you to quit drinking. It just tells you to admit it. And the second step, we took a lot of spookiness there. You got to come to believe that some power greater than yourself will restore you to sanity, which seems to be a life of reality for people like you and me. But the odd thing about this is that the emotions, my emotions, somehow are different. Most of my life, I thought they were different from nearly everybody's. I now know 1 million people who have emotions just like mine, who are sober, and millions more who do not. The one thing we have in common, our emotions are so similar. I know more about the newest person in this room than I know about my daughter, who I've known for 31 years. And I've never seen you before, but I can sit down and tell you more how you feel than I can tell with her. I've listened to her talk incessantly. And I've listened to her sister talk incessantly, not her sister. I find it hard to explain because you have to stay sober a while to alter your perspectives a little bit to understand it. But what I'm trying to convey to you is what eventually happened to me. I got desperate enough to take actions without the why. One of the great values of a group like the Pacific Group or the Big Book Group or the Midland 7-Eleven group, or the 710 group, or the Town North group in Dallas, or there's groups like this all over the country, where they come in and say, we don't care how it looks to you, here's what you're going to do. Because you have really not much of a rostrum to debate from when you're going down the toilet. You just, wait a minute. Nobody cares how it looks to you. There are a legion of people like you and me who are dying, who deserve to be here more than you or me, but who could not let up on that goddamn why in time. That's what I think what they mean about surrender. You got to surrender why. You can think it. You can't help what you think sometimes, because that comes from the subconscious, but you can help how you act. And AA has an absolutely unusual way to go. It says you will act differently despite how you think, how you feel. And if you don't know how to act, someone will be along directly to point out to you. The mental aspect of alcoholism is odd, because the mental aspect of alcoholism does not give you different emotions. We talk about alcoholic emotions. There's no such thing as an alcoholic emotion. There is no emotion that you have that the Pharaoh of Egypt didn't have, or Moses didn't have, or the Indians who built teepees out here didn't have 5,000 years ago. They are human emotions. The only thing that we have that's a little bit differently is a slightly different balance and a little different intensity of them. Somehow we are more prey to the enhancement of negative emotions and obsessive emotions, and when you feel less than, you develop a greater protection, which makes a bigger space you got to take, and people don't recognize that bigger space, and there's always conflict, and life gets to be just conflicts and frustrations and anxieties and bothers. Now, that doesn't mean you're an alcoholic. There are millions of people like that who are not alcoholics. They are known as intense neurotics. They see reality, but they react badly to it. They react, you might call, immaturely sometimes. And their intelligence sometimes is pushed aside by emotional, obsessive reactions. The one thing we have in common here, we are all basically obsessive people. And obsessions wipe out everything you know. And somehow you got to survive through that. But this does not, as I say, make you an alcoholic. One other thing must be present, and it's something I never knew and nobody ever told me. But I found it out eventually because people told me. I guess they told me, I didn't hear it. You and I are amongst a very small percentage of drinkers, maybe less than 7% of all the drinkers in the country, in the world. Alcohol has a special effect on me. I never knew that. They said it, I used to hear them say it sets up a craving for more. It didn't seem to all set up a craving for more in me. That it makes you drunk all the time. I wasn't drunk all the time. I got sober a lot of the time. That it made you just get weird. Never made me get weird. Sometimes it did, sometimes it didn't. What it did something that I never recognized because I didn't even know the problem existed. Alcohol is the only continuing thing I found in my life that fills the hole that I did not know existed until it was full. I could not recognize the hole, but I could recognize it was filled. And there's a lot of arguments which are extraneous, whether or not alcohol causes the hole or the hole is there for the alcohol to fill originally. It really doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any difference how long you drank. It doesn't make what you drank or where you drank or how you drank. But if you get into a situation where you have developed a hole that alcohol fills, you must almost certainly die from it. Because there is no way to make it without it. Because the very compensatory actions you take to compensate for your feeling less than make more problems, which give you more conflict, which have to drink to fill the hole, which makes the hole bigger, which makes you have to compensate more, and on and on. And you can be making a lot of money, or you could be making nothing. There's a lot of people in this room I've seen come in this room with a great deal of money, There's a lot of people in this room I've come in who've come to the mission and said, I have no place to stay. But we all wind up at the same place. I cannot make it. And that's why it's important to me on a continuing basis to take part in Alcoholics Anonymous, because only two ways can I change my life. One is to develop enough strength so I can take pain indefinitely. And I cannot do that. I have tried it. You people have helped me. The secondly is to change the world. But how can you change the world? The world does not change no matter how good I become. It doesn't change. And that is the miracle of Alcoholics Anonymous. The purpose of these steps is not to make you good. The purpose of the help we give each other is not to make you wonderful. The purpose of AA in the bottom line, the reason to take the steps, the reason to do things that don't seem to make sense, the reason for which there is no answer to the why, is not to make you a wonderful person, something infinitely more difficult. It is to alter my perception of the world and literally upgrade the whole world around me, little by little. Because unless that happens, I can't take it. And I don't believe you can take it. And I can spend my life in futile arguments and saying, I'm not going to take that direction. I've come here to find freedom. I came here as a result of freedom. I'm looking for a place to turn in where the warden will be nice, that's all. One of the great breakthroughs I had in AA in my early months and years was when I had done enough action so I could pray again. I prayed with much fear. I swore I would never pray again because if God existed, I was certainly damned. And I prayed, and I've been praying every day. Some people say, why pray? I don't know why pray. Don't bother. Why? Why tune your TV set? Why not just take what you get? And I have to be careful that I don't use Alcoholics Anonymous as a vehicle for demanding of God what I think I should have had all along. I think one of the greatest steps in AA says praying only for knowledge of His will for me and the courage to carry it out. And we are all rather self-willed people, and the world looks like it's hurting us sometimes, and the inclination is, now that I'm in good with God, how about getting it for me this time, God, just this once? And somehow to learn that some of the things I pray for might kill me. That's what's important about AA. That's what's important to me in this group. It's easy to go to meetings, go to a different meeting every night. There's 1,300 in this city. You can go to 1,300 meetings in the next 1,300 nights and think, I'm really active in AA. But it really isn't, because you have no comparative. The good thing about having a home group, whether it's this group or any other group, you can go there again and again and see how they look. And some weeks they all go bad. Now, if you weren't coming here regularly, you'd think they always were bad. But since you come here regularly, you realize they all got together and acted like assholes this one night just to hurt you. That's one of the great red flags in Alcoholics Anonymous. When they all look funny this week, shape up. Because never had a better test in AA than that. How are they looking? If they look bad, I am bad. If they look good, I am good. That's the basic elemental function. Not all of us are going to become happy and wonderful. Maybe none of us ever will. Maybe sometimes we try too much. But I know this. There is nothing that anyone in history has ever been able to do to alter my or your reaction to alcohol. If it does what it's supposed to do, it must certainly kill me. I can't do anything about it. The only thing I can do about it is a world that is cold and makes me feel alien and unfriendly. And there, somehow, in doing what appear to be non-applicable actions, to doing things that seem to, there is no answer for, that when you go into other groups where they don't do them, they say, why do you have to do that? And you never stop to realize that, I don't know why you have to do it. It's just that there's more sobriety in this room than any room, AA room in the world tonight. That's something. Last Friday night, the class of 1980, the most current group of people who have been deprived of their rights, got together and had a dinner. 51 members, 51 people got sober in one group in 1 year, and now we're going into their second year. I told our friends in New York about it. They couldn't believe it. It's impossible. We have more people sober in this group every year than most groups have forever. It's not that anything special here. We have the same steps, the things that were mentioned. We have people who care, but they have in other groups too. We have sponsorship, rather strong in some cases. And it seems, why should you have to have that? Because it gives you a little more direction. Many of the people come here as slippers from other areas and rather intense. But there's nothing special here. The Pacific group, to some people, to the fringers, looks about the way Nazi Germany must have looked at Denmark. You know, but it isn't that way. It sometimes seems that there's an in-group here. There is no in-group. There's only a self-appointed out-group. If you don't want to do the things, you join the out-group. But if you want to be so dumb as to do them, you'll get in the in-group. And you will never become wonderful, and you have all the emotions you ever had, but they won't be so intense, and they won't be so often. And you'll have people who you can talk to about them and help you. Not only in the Pacific group, but any group of people who are working to do this. If you're going to see how little you can get by on, you can go to any one of a number of groups where they sit around and gradually disappear and some other mope takes the chair, and it looks like they all stay the same, but it's dreadful. But if you want to be with people who are making their lives technicolor again, and I firmly believe that's why I drank, and I think that's why most people drink. To be with people who want to live in a technicolor world, you have to get the element for technicolor. That is called enthusiasm. And for a long time, you may not get it. But one day it starts to come. And then you better cherish it, because all you have to do is let it go for a little while, and it goes away. Nobody cares, really, why, if I stop, but I will care. No one really cares in the last analysis if you stop. We'll miss you, but the chairs fill up. I was thinking tonight as I looked over the room. I've been coming to this meeting now since it was formed 19 years ago. And I've seen a lot of faces come. We were in my office today looking at some old pictures, and Carol M. brought them up. And I looked at the pictures, and whatever happened, oh yes, remember Danny H., he got away, he didn't need this stuff, and he's dead. And gone. And dead, and unheard of, and crazy, and in the insane asylum. And there's faces like Irv and Chuck and Ginny who were so dumb they kept doing it and whose lives are comfortable and good. You have your choice. I have my choice. Alcoholics Anonymous works. It works better if you are with people who are working it. But you have that choice. I am glad to be here tonight. It has saved my life. Next year, if I survive, if God spares me, I will be sober a quarter of a century. And the best doctor in the world that I knew told me I must always take medication to not have to drink for 10 days. And I feel I haven't changed at all. But thank God the world has become livable and comfortable and preferable most of the time. That's what waits for you if you do these things. Don't throw it away just to say why one time too many. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Bill McDonald. I'm an alcoholic. This has not been a good week for me. I was just thinking about how a couple of years before I came to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was living in Long Beach, and I agree. And my father had just died, and I had the last time I had seen him alive, I was drunk, and he had his last words to me before I left the hospital was that you're nothing but a drunk. I don't know if you're an alcoholic, but you're something. I hope you find out what it is. But you're. I reformed the next day, but didn't do him any good. But and after he died in the night, and a couple of weeks later, I moved out of my apartment in Long Beach and moved back into my family home to help my sister. And I moved out of that apartment. My life was so disorganized, and I was so confused that I continued to pay the gas bill in that apartment for 6 months after I moved out. I just could not get it together. On the surface, everything looked right. Everything had always looked right on the outside. I had come from an average family and that was supportive and loving, and I had all the advantages that a kid could have. You know, I'd gone to parochial schools and was made to feel guilty, but I'd always felt apart from and different and just odd. And I think the reason for that is because my feelings. I can remember when I was in grammar school and high school and college that my friends would always say, "I can talk to you because you're so aware, so sensitive to other people's feelings." And by God, I thought that was a compliment. I really thought that was great until I got to the program and was told by my sponsor that being that sensitive and being that aware just shows the depth of basic immaturity, being that sensitive to what goes on in life. I used to get drunk because of things like the Vietnam Peace Accord. I remember I was the only one in Coco's Polynesian Tiki Hut buying around because the war was over. And hearing on the radio that 4 Afghan shepherds had been killed after wandering across the Soviet border in 1970 and getting drunk over something like that. And it's just getting drunk on the anniversary of the Titanic sinking, really important things, I didn't start to drink until I was almost, I'd had drinks, but I did not start to drink until I was almost 21 years old, and I don't think there's any other reason for that except for, and I really felt bad about that after hearing some of the stories around here when you're new, and, you're talking to somebody who's 15 and been sober for 19 years, and used to run guns in Nicaragua to make money to drink on, that sort of thing. And but until I heard Johnny A. from Laguna say one night that he started drinking when he was put in that social situation when alcohol was made available, and he drank. And up to the time when I started to drink, it was in May of 1964 at a party. I had found myself for the first time with a group of people who had similar interests to mine, which were even esoteric then. But somebody asked me what I was going to drink, and Scotch and water, of course. I watched William Powell movies for years, and within 6 months, my life was totally changed. Up to that time, I had been able to set and achieve goals, and within 6 months of the first time I drank, nothing could match any goal that I could set for myself. And it continued to be that until I got to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and continued to be that way for some time after I got here. After I first sobered up, I got sober in Orange County, and when I first, I think the first awakening I had was when I left a meeting one night in the participation meeting in Seal Beach, and realized that perhaps the program of Alcoholics Anonymous could work if I was willing. I did not think I was an alcoholic. I was afraid I wasn't an alcoholic because I thought that if I was not an alcoholic, working these steps would not have any effect on my life. But I was tired. I was just worn out physically. I had never lost a job. I've never gone any place in a job either, I'll tell you, but I worked in aerospace in a good union job, by God. I mean, the only way you get fired there if you turn red, you know, and the personnel department was more inefficient than I was drunk. That was the only reason, because I had been in that job for 7 years after I got out of the Navy, and I had never had 30 days back to back without losing some time, directly because of drinking. But after I left that meeting, I was about a month sober, I guess, and I thought perhaps it might work, because nothing had ever worked before. I had tried all the philosophical, political, and religious routes to try to find what was wrong, what would fill that hole in my guts that I couldn't explain. And after 8 months, I was going to 14 and 16 meetings a week out in Orange County, roaring all over, trying to find the answer. I was working full time, and I was just crazy as a barn owl. And a friend of mine had recently been deported up to the Midnight Mission, and he was still living up there. So I started going to meetings with him up here. And I came up to the Pacific Group meetings, and I had heard a lot about sponsorship as we know it, because people from this group, some of the people are here tonight. This is Lost Space Night. True story. Had carried the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, and out to Orange County, I'd heard it out there, and the emphasis they talked about was the idea of sponsorship and direction. And I had a good sponsor out in Orange County, the man who 12-stepped me, my psychiatrist. And I asked him for direction. He said he couldn't do that. His background and his education and his beliefs would not allow him to give me direction. So I heard Clancy speak out in Laguna, and I asked him if I could talk to him. And I moved up. I started coming to meetings up here on a regular basis, going to the yard. And just generally, because I was so shocked personally by this time, so strange that it was just overwhelming for a while. And my life is not like that today. I've been sober for a little over 8 years, and the first 5 years were just cake. And there wasn't really a hell of a lot for me to do or deal with. And the last 3 years have just been terrible. I mean, one damn thing after another. I mean, it's just, you know, the marriage and then the divorce and then the tax problems and money problems, career changes and work changes and more tax problems. And then there was a conspiracy last Thursday night between the Pope and a baseball player in Penmar Park. And I was on a mission of mercy delivering some books to a friend of mine and my sponsor's daughter. My car was parked in his driveway, and my life has not totally gotten together. I am in some ways still very irresponsible. I left the keys in the ignition and ran to the house to deliver some books, and saw my car backing out the driveway. My immediate response was not one of aggression and terror, but it was just I'll move it, just wait. And one of the things that's always been hard for me in life has always been not so much to give. It's always been easy for me to give. But I think the only thing that's been harder for me to do than ask for help is to accept it. And since my automobile drove up Lake Street towards Tijuana, I guess, I don't know. I've just been surrounded by the love and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I guess that's what it's all. That's a lot of what it's been. But what's even more important, what is really more important to me, is not the fact that I don't really give a damn, but the fact that I just these are all things in the last 3 years that any one of them would have destroyed me. I mean, I've come from the fact where I couldn't turn my gas off 8 years ago to the point where I've been able to handle with some degree of levelness and live a complete and rounded life. And if you're new, or just stay, because there's no instant cure. It just takes time, and sometimes takes longer than others. But just give yourself a chance by staying around long enough to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Our second 10-minute speaker is Carol R.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I'm an alcoholic. Oh. For those of you that are new, I'm sober tonight, and that's a miracle. Believe me, this is what I used to take my drugs for, and this is why I drank. And this is not the way I got to the program. What I used to be like. I came from a normal family. My mother was an alcoholic, and my father never faced reality. And I lived in a bubble, and I was in fantasy land until about 12 years old, when, because of food, I had gotten to 160 pounds. And it was at that time my mother thought that I might have a slight problem, and she took me to a doctor, and that's when I started taking amphetamines. And I remember it was Easter Sunday, and in those days, they do make them Preludin, and the doctor gave me 3 a day. And I remember taking my first Preludin, and I was 13 years old, and it was wonderful. It was at that time I could be pleasant, I could talk to people, and I felt like I was not so terribly, terribly different. I had complexes. I mean, I just never fit, and I know my mother loved me. She overprotected me. And when I took that pill, it was just heaven. I didn't know what I want. I went to a Catholic school. When I graduated from high school, I had a lot of friends, and I was student body secretary and class president, but I never let anybody get to know me. By this time, I had a lot of acquaintances, but I had no people that knew me. I weighed 103 pounds, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. My father was in the garment industry, and he thought that I should be a model. And my head never accepted the fact that I had lost weight, and I had no self-worth, so I went into nursing. And actually, I could not stand the sight of blood, and I pass out. I still don't do nursing very well. When I was in nurses training, I got drunk every weekend, and I borrowed all the patients' pills on the floor. And I do remember that the only time I felt comfortable in nurses training was when I was at the county hospital in the locked wards. And I really did feel comfortable there. And it was then that I realized that I needed some therapy or something. But in those days, people weren't too into therapy, and I just remember drinking, and that was my therapy. When I graduated from nurses training, the thought of being a real nurse just terrified me. And I couldn't do it. I mean, I just physically couldn't do it. And all the men that I dated, the ones that I liked, I ran from. And the ones that liked me, well, anyway, when I graduated from nurses training, rather than being a nurse, I got married to a doctor. I didn't love him, but I was a Catholic, and he was a Catholic, and I was horny, and I was a virgin, and that's what you did in those days. Anyway, the marriage was a disaster, and I drank my way 4 years. We moved a lot, and from my first drink, I blacked out. I assumed that's the way everybody drank. I really don't remember that man, and I have made amends. It was terrible. Anyway, when I had gotten into so much trouble outside the marriage and a pregnancy and all those other things that alcoholic women do, I had to leave town and him. I left San Francisco and came back here to Los Angeles, and the thought of being alone was terrifying. And I met this other man right away who was like part of the mafia, and he was excited, and he let me drink the way I wanted to drink, and we got married right away. Well, we didn't. We lived together. Anyway, it worked because we were both very sick, and I needed him to survive. I wasn't capable of doing anything, and he allowed me to drink, and he took care of me, and that was the way that was. That lasted 5 years. Well, it lasted 11. It took me 5 years to be able to have the strength to get out of that marriage. I first came to the program. My life was a disaster. I got up in the morning to take the pills, to drink at night, to get up in the morning to have a perfect chemical balance. We moved 13 times. I went through about 13 cars. I never stayed any place. I was a runner, and that's what I know how to do best. I knew when to move, how to get out, and how to leave town. Both the men there I were married to knew I had serious problems, and they thought I should get help, although, you know, I did not want to lose my right to drink, and I defended that to the end. I first came to the program in 1968. A lady 12-stepped me, and I went to a woman's meeting, and because she took me to a ladies' meeting, and I didn't like women much, I had never let anyone get close to me. I thought that all AA, I don't know why I thought this was just women, and I never went back. And I got drunk and stayed drunk till 1973, when one of the nurses that I was working with died. She just didn't show up one day, and we drank. Well, we drank alike. You know, we drank at noon and we drank at night, and we took our pills together, and I drank and took pills the same way she did. I always knew that I would need the program, but I thought I would wait till I got to be 50 when my life was over. And when she died at 43, I got frightened because I knew I wanted to live, and I am a survivor. I do know that I have wanted to live. I just didn't have the tools. You know, something was missing in me. The next a patient 12-stepped me, a beautiful lady who's no longer in the program, but she was a beautiful lady, and she got me to the program. I wanted the program, and I felt at home. However, I did not know how to get what you people had. I didn't know that you had to stop drinking continuously. And when I came in, I was crazy. I wore bizarre costumes. I had different colors of hair. I couldn't sit still. I fidgeted. I was just nuts. It took me years to try and just be able to pray, to sit still. And, you know, that was my beginning. You know, oh, God, please let me just sit through a meeting. I wouldn't let people know me. And as soon as they got close, I'd run. Anyway, I stayed sober a year, and then I started into grass. And for me, any chemical, grass, pills, they're all lethal. I mean, just lethal. I am compulsive from the word go. I mean, you give me anything, and I mean, I OD on vitamins. Anyway, I got into pills, you know, and I got into all kinds of stuff. I changed my sobriety date, and I tried it again. Got a new sponsor, but I still didn't work the steps the way, you know, the way that we're supposed to here. This is the most time I've ever had. The last time I went back out, I mean, I got even into extracts where I was, you know, using chocolate extract, bottles of it, making runs at night. I mean, it was just insane. And I always thought that the men that were in my life were my problem. And so when I left them and I still was getting drunk, I realized that I had to look at me. My last, when I got to the program this last time, I had no place else to go. And I had gone back out one more time. And I had become, you know, I always blacked out. That I knew how to do well. I liked being numb, and that I was comfortable with, being unconscious. But I couldn't get unconscious, and I couldn't black out. And I remember ending up, it was like my moment of clarity. It was one more time, and by this time I was really alone. There was no one there to protect me. There was no man in my life to save me, and I had gotten into a lot of problems. And I had closed myself off from everyone that I had allowed to a little bit get close. And I ended up in my own bathtub with a total stranger, with him. And I couldn't black out. If I could have blacked out, it would have been easier. And I didn't know how to get rid of him, and I didn't know what to do, and he wasn't even speaking English. I think it was German. Anyway, this is the most sobriety I have ever had. I will have 3 years in June. This program works for me, and I'm privileged to be a part of the Pacific Group. You know, I got here by accident also, but I guess there are no accidents, and I'm very proud to be a sober lady today. I have a beautiful sponsor who teaches me how to stand still, how to show up. You know, this has been hard for me, and I don't run anymore. I've lived in my house 3 years, which is a miracle, and I have a job today, and I even like nursing today, which is another miracle. And I've been there not quite a year, but and my program is working. I have a higher power today, whom I choose to call God, and He is in my life on a daily basis. I get on my knees every morning, and my life is working. There are days that I'm scared to death, but I show up for it. And I have learned that I need people very much, and I love people very much, and I'm terrified most of the time, but I'm grateful for all of you, and I'm very proud to be a part of the Pacific Group, and I want to thank Nancy for the privilege of sharing here.
Now, we celebrate birthdays in this group, and we define sobriety as free from alcohol, pills, marijuana, cigarettes, or anything of that nature that affects you from the neck up. You get 1 candle on your cake for each year of sobriety. And our first birthday tonight is for 1 year for Marty L. Hi, my name's Marty. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, I also used to do a lot of drugs. Well, that's the way I am. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Susie, for giving me my cake. And I'd like to thank her, along with my sisters, who took me out to dinner tonight. She asked me tonight where I was a year ago, and I thought about it. I said, well, I was in Williamsburg, Virginia, in Eastern State Hospital, in the lockup unit, and, you know. Anyway, and I'm here tonight in Southern California taking my 1-year cake, and it's just totally unbelievable, you know. I'm really glad to be here, really grateful for all you people, and thank you for the Pacific Group. Happy birthday, Marty, and we have a 3-year birthday for Walt G. Happy birthday.
My name is Walter Craig, and I'm an alcoholic. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Keith, for giving me that cake. I'd like to thank my family, my son, John, my daughter, Cindy, my son-in-law, Greg, my mother-in-law, Evelyn, and my brand-new wife of 2 weeks, Judy, for their love and support and for being here and seeing me get this cake. I'd like to thank all of you and Alcoholics Anonymous for the best 3 years of my life. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Walt. For 4 years, Rodney H.
Hi, my name is Rodney, and I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Chuck for giving me that cake and for being my sponsor these last 4 years. He is a kind and gentle man. I want to thank Clancy for all he is to us, and I want to thank all of you for my life as it is today. If you're new, I hope that you stay. It's a wonderful life. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Rodney. And we have a 5-year birthday for Larry S.
My name's Larry Singleton. I'm an alcoholic. Clancy, for the 5th straight year, thank you for carrying the load when I was incapable of doing so. I came to this group 5 years ago from a town many miles away. I still live many miles away, and I want the people that are new here tonight, that are new to the Pacific group, I want to share this with you, that there is life here. When I reached that point that Clancy talked about, this is where I come, and I come here often. There are many people in this room who I love very, very dearly, and they have touched my life, and they have made my life a good one, even when I want to mess it up. I love you all, and I'm glad you're here because I'm glad I'm here. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Larry, and we have a 7-year birthday for Caroline G.
My name is Caroline Goodson, and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm very grateful to be sober 7 years. I'd like to thank my first sponsor, Pat H., and especially my second sponsor and present sponsor, Evelyn. She has been very kind and understanding to me this year. And I'd like to thank my friend Judy Riley for coming here tonight for my birthday. She brought me to AA 7 years ago. And Alcoholics Anonymous have given me consistency in my life and friends that have lasted 7 years. I'd like to thank Clancy for starting the Pacific group and making it the attraction that it is, so that it could be here when I needed to get sober. Thank you all very much.
Happy birthday, Caroline, and 8 years for Jim E.
I'm Jim, an alcoholic. I'd like to thank God if He works through Alcoholics Anonymous, my sponsor, Clancy I, this group, and the class of 74. For 8 years of sobriety and being a productive member of the human race. Thank you.
Happy birthday, Tim, and we have a 16-year birthday for Martha O.
Hi, everyone. My name is Martha O'Mara, and I'm an alcoholic. Sweet 16, going on 72. For the benefit of the new people, it had been established for many years that I could not get well. And in these years, you have loved me and healed me so that my life today is in technicolor. All miracles begin with an act of love. And for me, that was when my husband brought me to the Pacific group. Thank you for our birthday, Beverly. Thank you for being here. I need you, and I love you. And as my friends tonight said to me, Carol and Barney, don't go away, because you are my life. Thank you, and thank you forever.
Happy birthday, Martha, and 22 years for Tommy O.
My name is Tommy O'Mara, and I'm an alcoholic. It's really a privilege for me to be here tonight. First, I'd like to thank my sponsor, Clancy, for giving me my cake and for rendering that beautiful clock. I've heard them many, many times through the years, but each time I hear them, I hear and learn something different. Through the years, I've been a rather inconsistent individual, but at the risk of boring some of you, I would like to be a little consistent tonight. And that is to repeat almost the identical same words that I have said at the podium when receiving a cake that I have done for quite a few years now. First, I'd like to tell you that some years back I had the privilege of being the speaker at the Gratitude Ball in Las Vegas. It was a fabulous affair. And during the course of the night, I heard the word bandied around consistently, both through the dancing and the entertainment. And that word was the word gratitude. Gratitude. And I realized then that quite a number of years, this was a word that I had omitted from my rather limited vocabulary. And I made a promise that whenever given the opportunity, I would try and make up for lost time and express that gratitude. First, I'd like to express my gratitude to my beautiful wife, Martha, who has been a great help to me through the years, through all those trials and tribulations which each and every one of us have to face, irrespective of the fact whether we are sober or otherwise. I'd like to express my gratitude to Clancy, his wife, Charlotte, and the family for the help that they have been to me through the years and helping me to lead a better and a sober life and giving me what you might term a little family life when I really needed it. I'd like to express my gratitude to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous itself for the help it has given me to try and become a better man. And last but not least, I'd like to express my gratitude to God who held up that guiding light that led me to you people, such beautiful people as you are, my kind of people, and for all the beautiful attributes that have been bestowed upon me through the years. I am indeed a very, very grateful alcoholic. This has always been and always will be my home group, but unfortunately through certain circumstances I'm not able to get here as often as I would like to. But I'm given this opportunity anyhow to thank you all from the bottom of my heart very, very much. God bless you all.
Happy birthday, Tommy. That's all the birthdays we have tonight.